We didn't even have to talk about an idea. Started. September 8th, 2025 at 5:30. Chair Basavada is excused for this meeting, and as your vice chair, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Commissioner Isle, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Of course. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is approval. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Motion to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Executive Director report. Alex, take it away.
Mr. Sanders. Well, it's been a long time since we had a commission meeting and we've had a lot of stuff going on, so buckle up. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the Hands-On Children's Museum Award. So I was fortunate to attend the Hands-On Children's Museum Summer Splash Gala along with Mike Reed, Tabor Lee, many of our commissioners, including Commissioner Harding, Commissioner Basavada. And the museum was kind enough to give the City of Olympia lot and the port their Great Friend Kids Award, which is what you see on the right there. And we're so grateful to the museum for their recognition and super proud to be in such great company with our partners, the City of Olympia and Lot. And we're excited to keep the partnership going with the Hands-On Children's Museum and help collaborate with them for shared success moving into the future. I also was very excited to go to and very appreciative to go to the Community Partners event out in Panorama. It was a great opportunity to connect with the Panorama leadership team and fellow community partners out on the amazing Panorama campus. They have a great impact throughout our community and are a great asset, and it was really nice to be able to share an evening with them. Then we went to the Experience Olympia and Beyond annual meeting. We also there were able to witness our very own Commissioner Harding get the Boldness in Tourism Award at the annual meeting. So she was honored, and along with Commissioner Isle, Mike Reed, Tabor, and Commissioner Sanders, we were there to cheer her on with a standing ovation. But we're also very glad to get a chance to support the Experience Olympia and Beyond team and really support them as they're going through some transitions, and really hope we can continue a strong partnership with them moving forward. And this is actually sort of a standard thing we do, but kind of fun to talk about. So the stormwater ponds associated with our stormwater treatment plant on the marine terminal undergo an annual cleaning. And this is the guys having to essentially get knee deep in there with all of the stuff that gets sort of knocked out of our stormwater before the stormwater is discharged down into the inlet. So after a year of processing stormwater, the amount of sediment that was collected in these ponds was approximately 48,400 gallons of sediment. So that's 4,400 gallon truckloads of sediment, and we kept that from going into Butt Inlet. So we're very excited about our 7 years of compliance with all of our benchmarks and requirements of the stormwater treatment plant. And kudos to the guys who keep it running. Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of projects going on, even though it's not we're sort of ending the summer. All of our paving projects are kicking off right about now. So the ones that are here locally in the Market District, starting next week, we'll be working on the Farmers Market parking lot. There will be some crack sealing, some seal coating, and some striping going on. We're shooting to have that work done on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so we don't interrupt the operations at the Farmers Market. Also, that time period, we think the Rance Group will be doing similar work on their part of the parking lot over in the Market District. And then in September 18th to October 3rd, for the Anthony's parking lot, we're going to do some major resurfacing and also taking out some of the street trees. The trees there, unfortunately, are of a kind that actually the root systems do a number on the pavement and the sidewalk. So we'll be needing to take those trees out and put in some trees that don't actually have root systems that destroy the sidewalk. So, so that's all going on, and we've got information on our website if you want more details on that. Also, in this general vicinity, the Marine Drive Northeast Pavement Project is going on, and this is our major project here in Olympia. And it's repaving Marine Drive Northeast between Olympia Avenue and the Franklin Market Street intersection. So it's gonna take about 45 days and will actually require closing down that section of the road. So there are detours that will be in effect. They've actually started mobilizing today, and folks who've driven around here should have seen flaggers and lots of big equipment. Just we've got lots of information on our website about the project and about the detours, and also there's a lot of signage, and we've got flaggers out. So hopefully it won't be too disruptive to folks who are trying to make their way out to either the Marine Terminal or out to North Point. The project will remove and rebuild the roadway. It'll install new pavement. It'll update pedestrian ramps to meet ADA standards, and then we're going to repaint all the pavement striping, including the bike lanes. So the roadways really reached a point where this work is necessary, and so we're excited to improve the roadway safety, enhance the pedestrian accessibility, and better support local traffic and freight traffic. So again, if you want more information on this, please go to our website. We've got FAQs on it, and we've got maps and things you can download. And then the last paving project we've got going on is the airport. The airport, its main runway is being rehabilitated, and then there'll be some LED lighting installed. So the first phase involves closing the main runway for about 12 days while crews repave and restripe the southernmost portion of it. During construction, the airport will remain open by folks using the east-west runway. But this runway is not lighted and doesn't have an instrument approach, so it will be closed down at night, which means the daytime traffic might increase during these 12 days. And also it'll be a different flight pattern, and so there may be some increased noise over houses and residences that don't currently have it. So we want to make sure folks are aware it's a temporary thing. And if you hear from folks about it, that's what it's all about. The second phase of the project is putting in energy efficient LED lighting and signage to replace outdated systems. There'll be a new pilot controlled lighting system and 4 new airfield lighting regulators. The work is covered 95% by an FAA grant, and that grant is supported by aviation user fees collected on jet fuel and aviation gasoline. So we're excited to be able to take advantage of the federal money and do some good work at the airport. Also, this past week, we had Foopara, which is always a very fun time. So last Friday, there were lots of sirens and horns going off at the Marine Terminal, and it was all in support of Foopara. So this is a partnership with the Thurston County Chamber of Commerce and the Olympia Yacht Club. And we host local law enforcement and first responders at the Marine Terminal. And we honor the boaters who are going out to celebrate our military service members. So as folks go by on their boats, there's lots of sirens going off and honking and cheers and waving. And it's a great time for us to get together with our fellow jurisdictions and all of their first responders and say thank you to all of them as well as the military. So our tours have finished. Actually, we just had our last free public marine terminal tour of the year. Combined with the tours that we did during the course of the year and Harbor Days, hundreds of community members had a chance to look at our seaport and learn all about it. And we are very thankful to Fort staff, especially Emily Gurton, Tabor Lee, Conley Booth, Alexander Schleter, Dan Musser, and Afshin Yilmaz for ensuring the tours were safe if we had operations going on, but also very informative for all the folks who had a chance to take a look. And we finally wrapped up our summer season of events. Last Friday, we had our last movie at the Marina. And it was quite a year. We had record-breaking attendance at our summer nights at the port, also at Movies at the Marina, Shoestring Circus, and the South Sound Block Party. And we're very thankful and appreciative of being able to have folks gather at our public spaces and enjoy our beautiful summers here. Other standout events during our summer were the Olympia Air Show, the Slurp, the Oyster Slurp, Harbor Days, And we're seeing even more interest from organizations that want to come out and host events out on our marine terminal, excuse me, not our marine terminal, but our port peninsula. And we're very excited to do all we can to share the space. And this is something new. We are going to produce the Port Pulse. It's going to be a monthly newsletter, and it'll give the community just a quick look at the latest news and happenings around the port. This month, the Port Pulse features a blog that highlights the port's role in emergency preparedness for our region. So it will be out soon, so feel free to check out our website for the Port Pulse. And last but not least, here are the various ways you can connect with us. All of these can provide you information about the port. And if you'd like to connect with someone and provide some input and feedback, please feel free to email port staff or our commission. And that is it.
Thank you. So we'll now move to public comment. This is an opportunity to speak on any item on today's agenda or any other port business. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes. Please direct your comments to the commission as a whole, and we ask that all remarks be courteous and relevant. I'm going to do the virtual public comment first. We have Lee Reiner, issues regarding Port of Olympia.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for allowing the Port of Olympia to allow for public comment tonight. Many of us have lived in the area for over 40 years, and we love this area dearly. Many of us have been attending the Port of Olympia meetings for decades, and we have watched the Port of Olympia take taxpayer money from every dwelling in Thurston County, from the houses, the condos, the apartments, on, and put it into their pocket, and then make speculation. Many of us feel that it's speculation, these buildings that are proposed to be built by the port. To many of us, this is speculation. I know that years ago, the Port of Olympia built the fuel dock there at Swantown Marina, $17 million, and they had to borrow money. Who's paying for this? Taxpayers are paying for this. Many taxpayers are having trouble paying their mortgages, paying their rent. This all Port of Olympia uses these taxes to speculate, many of us believe, and it's not for the general good. Many of us are concerned about the expansion of the Tumwater Airport that is in the purview of the Port of Olympia. And many of us are concerned about this airport expansion that currently does not have a SEPA, State Environmental Policy Act, a review of these proposed expansions. More airplane hangars, more tarmac, more buildings. As you know, the airport is on a critical area aquifer for the city of Tumwater. This is drinking water for the city of Tumwater, and many of us are concerned that the de-icing plant that will be used for the airplanes will affect the drinking water of Tumwater for years to come. And so we're standing now and asking to think about these issues. I know that another issue is we have all these empty buildings in the city of Olympia, empty building after empty building, but the Port of Olympia is now considering going out and borrowing more money to build another empty building. They want to build it near Swantown Marina, which is kind of on the peninsula, which is near the marine terminal in Swantown Marina. Many of us are not supporting this this proposal, but nobody seems to listen. We ask for work sessions to discuss this. We have not seen a work session come to play. We've been promised work sessions with the Port of Olympia so we can discuss the cleanup of Butt Inlet. This is a $200 million cleanup. We still have not had these work sessions, and we have been promised this for over a year. So keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Reiner. We will call up our in-person comment by Carla Wolfsburg, please. Agenda item, electric ferry.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name's Carla Wolfsberg and I live in Tumwater. And while I'm sure Mr. Reed will probably address some of this during his presentation to you tonight about the item under G1, which is the electric water taxi, I have about 6 questions to pose to you all. And my first question is, how much of an investment of public funds will be needed to establish a water taxi commute service in Olympia? And number 2, how many commuters per trip will the electric water taxi accommodate? 3, how many cars will be taken off I-5 for each of those water taxi commutes? And 4, how does the length of time for a water taxi commute compare to a road trip to the same distance or to the same destination? Number 5, what kind of sonar does the electric ferry use? And will it impact marine mammals, particularly the endangered orcas? And number 6, how will the reduction of carbon emissions by the electric water taxi offset other port practices, such as, as an example, log shipping at the marine terminal? So let's just take number 6 first. I'd like to address that because the reduction of carbon emissions by a water taxi commute compared to the emissions of a Weyerhaeuser log ship from Olympia. So that ship takes about 14 days to get to Japan. It burns about 50,000 gallons of fuel per day. That amounts to 700,000 gallons of fuel per trip. So I'd just like you to think about that. And question 2, how many commuters will the Artemis Escape F12 accommodate? Well, I would say on their website, I looked and they said 12 passengers and 2 crew. Okay, so that leads to my next question 3. How many cars will be taken off 5 for each of the water taxi commutes? And I guess that would be 12, because that's how many people are on the boat. And number 4 was the time. What is the water taxi? How long does it take to get from Olympia let's say example, Des Moines? I think it takes about 1 hour and 17 minutes. And by car, it's 54 minutes. So it's a longer commute by about 23 minutes. Question 5, what type of sonar does the Escape F12 use? Well, there are several types of sonar. There's the one that goes down to the bottom, and then there's the lateral ones. And I think that these ferries have to use the lateral ones to identify logs or other floating objects. So that's the kind of sonar that really disrupts marine mammals, particularly the orcas. So I would just like for you to think about these questions, and I hope all of these basic questions will be addressed so we can all clearly understand the electric water taxi's benefits and its cost to the public and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Wolfsburg? Consent calendar. You all have the minutes before you from 3 previous meetings, June 17th, July 14th, and July 28th. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And we're moving to pending issues or business. We have 6 items for briefing and discussion. First, we'll begin with briefing on the electric ferry project presented by Mike Reed, our Community and Economic Development Director.
Greetings, Commission. My name is Mike Reed. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director, for the record. Actually, tonight, I'm actually not going to be the one giving you the presentation. I'm just the staff person sort of facilitating this project. We've contracted for some assistance and service on this effort with Peter Phillips, who's here in the audience, and he'll be giving us a presentation on this subject tonight. The thing that I do want to do is put some of this in context, and it is referenced in the cover memo for this. People may be asking, where is this coming from, or why are we having this conversation? The port adopted in 2019 Vision 2050, which is the strategic guiding document that we use here at the port that was sort of re-vetted by this commission. And in that document, excuse me, there are 2 specific actions associated with this and one primary goal. That primary goal talks about alternative potential uses that we could accommodate at our waterfront and by our marine terminal that are sort of non-trade related. And then it has two action items. The first one that I'll reference is action item number 26. Continue to track state-led ferry service studies and evaluate the feasibility of the port's potential role as the southernmost passenger terminal in the South Puget Sound. And action item number 27, evaluate the feasibility of establishing a mosquito fleet water taxi system that provides limited scale transportation service for commuters throughout the South Puget Sound, south of Tacoma. This topic about ferries has also been a discussion point that we have had our Citizen Advisory Committee look at historically over the years. I think they looked at it in 2018 and 19 in that period of time. We've also had many of our local state legislators track an interest in this. And in fact, there was actually some state legislation this year that was introduced that ultimately I don't think fully was made it through the process, but was introduced to continue to look and track this. So with that, I want to invite Peter Phillips up to share his report and some of the work that he's been, or his analysis on kind of where we've been at, what we've been doing here at the port on this this issue. So with that, Phillips.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, commissioners, for inviting me today, and I hope to address some of the questions that were asked in the course of my comments. I'm going to make a brief PowerPoint presentation, after which I hope that I can entertain questions from you, which will give us more detail. So I was asked to present on the work that we've done, the opportunities that present themselves, and then next steps to explore passenger-only ferry service and associated to that green manufacturing of the new generation of passenger-only ferries. So the Mosquito Fleet is what historically operated in Puget Sound for about 100 years between about 1850 and 1950 when it was taken over by the state. These were independently owned passenger-only ferries, cargo ferries. They carried all of the cargo and people that traveled within Puget Sound. There was no other way to get around. You got around over the water. There were no roads. And so everything happened on Puget Sound. Everything happened on these little boats that zipped around, thus being known as the Mosquito Fleet. Interestingly, because these communities relied on the Mosquito Fleet, every community in Puget Sound, every waterfront community has a publicly accessible, publicly owned water or land that can be used for passenger-only ferry service. Equally important, passenger-only ferry service, as we are looking at it, can be run out of a recreational marina. So we virtually have the infrastructure that we need all over Puget Sound to implement passenger-only ferry service. As I said, in 1950, it was determined by the state that the independently owned and operated Mosquito Fleet service was not in the best interest of the state of Washington and the taxpayers. So the state bought out the ferry service or the independent ferry operators and established what we know now as Washington State Ferries. You all know that Washington State Ferries ends at Tacoma. There's no service south of Tacoma by Washington State Ferries. Furthermore, the state-run ferry system is in deep trouble right now. They don't have the number of vessels that they need, and they don't have a plan for replacing those vessels to the service levels that they are mandated to provide. As we've said, they don't serve Olympia. And the new boats that they are planning to build are boats that are deemed hybrid electric, but they're very expensive. They have already come in over budget, and they haven't even been yet. The state has budgeted $1.2 billion for 5 boats, and the first boat has come in at $400 million. That's without even cutting steel. So we don't know what they're going to cost. The charging stations don't exist. The technology does not exist to charge those boats. So there's $1.2 million committed for boats that are untested, unproven. And I think there's an opportunity there, which I'll discuss as we move forward. In May, we hosted here in Olympia the Artemis fast ferry demonstration, which was referred to in the comments, this was a demonstration project. This was done by Artemis at our behest. We went out to them and we said, hey, we want to look at ferry operations in the South Sound. And they said, where's Olympia? We explained to them that Olympia is the state capital. It's at the very south end of the Sound. It's about 65 miles from Seattle, about 40 miles to the airport. And we think that it is someplace that you should take a look at. And they said, okay, well, we will take a look at it. And they came down and they showed us what an electric ferry might look like. Again, this was a small boat. This is just a demonstration boat. It was configured for 12 passengers, but it was a fancy boat at 12 passengers. But this boat can carry 30 passengers. We did determine through some due diligence that these boats are too small to run all the way to the airport on a single charge. So the boats that are proposed for this are larger boats that would be 150 passengers and about 24 meters, which is about 70 feet long. Still small enough to call it a recreational marina. So once the Artemis demonstration project came, there was a lot of excitement here locally about it, but more importantly, there was a lot of excitement in Artemis, which is one of the leading electric boat manufacturers. And these are not untested models. They have 3 contracts currently in Europe. They have a pilot project that they're starting in Belfast, Northern Ireland, which is where they're based, and they'll run from Belfast to Bangor, which is about the same distance as Olympia to the airport. The other opportunities are ferry service to the airport writ large, and then the green manufacturing components of that. So that brings us to where we are today. And I'm going to talk about 2 potential opportunities. One is the ferry service itself, and the other is the green manufacturing of the boats that would be used in our ferry service and any other ferry service. These are 2 boats here that you can see. The top one on the right is the King County Water Taxi, and that's a 150 passenger boat. It's conventionally powered, so it uses what we call diesel electric, but it's a gasoline powered boat, or a diesel powered boat. And then the one below is called the Chilkat Express, and that's a boat that we used. I was hired by the city of Des Moines to do a pilot project in Des Moines, and we ran that boat in the summer of 2022 between Des Moines and downtown Seattle. And then I included the photo on the top left to show what an existing electric ferry operation looks like. This is a boat calling at an all-electric terminal in Thailand, and they run, I think, 40 boats out of that terminal, all electric right now. So the 3 steps that we need to look at, we did a pilot project in Des Moines. It was very successful. I'm proposing that you look at doing the same kind of thing in Olympia, but step 1 would be to study the demand, feasibility, and operations. So before investing any money, and I'm not proposing that the port stand up a ferry service, but to determine whether there is demand so that others who might want to stand up a ferry service are interested in doing it, we need to do a demand study. Then we need to do a feasibility study, and last, an operations study. The feasibility and operations are relatively simple, can be folded into the demand study because we know from experience that it is feasible to run these boats because they can run out of a recreational marina. And operationally, we have the expertise in Puget Sound to do it. So what a demand study will tell us is whether people want it and how much they'll pay for it. And those are the 2 important questions: people wanting it and whether those people are willing to pay enough money to make it financially sustainable. Assuming that such demand study shows that they're interested in feasibility to do it, then the recommendation would be to engage in a pilot program. And then the pilot program would be an operator engaged in running a pilot to test how it actually works. The demand study is all on paper, it's modeling. The pilot program tests that. And then, of course, we'd have to determine if the pilot project is deemed successful, how do you fund ongoing operations? The other side of the equation, and again, I'm going through this quickly so that I can leave questions or time for questions for you. But the other side of the equation is the actual manufacture of these electric fast ferries. And these three boats on the left are actually existing electric fast ferries that are in operation around the world today. The top left is the Artemis. It's called the EF-24, which means it's 24 meters. It carries 150 passengers. Below that is another boat by a Swedish company called Candela, which is the same type of vessel. It's operating in Stockholm right now, again, 150 passengers. And then the boat on the bottom is built and operated by a company out of New Zealand, or out of New Zealand, I'm sorry, called EV Maritime. And they operate that electric boat. And I have some pricing on this, which I can talk to you about during the question period. But the reason I believe that there's an opportunity in the Port of Olympia to build these boats is that the shipyard capacity in Puget Sound right now is already constrained. The current shipyards are full of work with traditional aluminum boats, with traditional pipelines, and there's no incentive for the shipyards that are currently here to go out and begin to build an expertise in a technology with which they're not familiar. So they're not incentivized to invest in new technology or product lines. However, the US market for electric fast ferries is a very attractive market for the Europeans and the other foreign companies that have these boats. The technology is proven, but the boats have to be built in the United States because of our what are called cabotage laws. Jones Act is the one that affects us, which means any boat that is calling between two US ports, any vessel, commercial vessel, has to be built in the United States. So these vessels have to be built in the United States, and these guys are going to have to build them here. And that is, I think, the opportunity for the Port of Olympia. The Port Peninsula is a perfect spot for it. Artemis has told us that they are interested. There is expertise here to run these shipyards, but they have to joint venture with the foreign manufacturers, and the US company has to own them at about 51% or more. Green manufacturing is a really attractive manufacturing process. As I said, these are advanced technologies, they're proven technologies. They're already building these boats elsewhere in the world. They require an educated workforce, so it's an opportunity to partner with the schools that we have here in Olympia already. They're high-paying jobs, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 to start. And then they go up from there, and these companies will be investing in the shipyard only if they can demonstrate that they're going to build 12, 14, 20 vessels. So that's over a 20-year period. So these are career track jobs. You learn how to do it, you make a good living, and then you can spend a career doing it. You can see this is a shipyard. This is an Artemis shipyard in Belfast. You can see how clean it is. That boat is being built there, and it is absolutely spotless. So they're unique products, and they're meeting an emerging demand, which is happening in the United States. So briefly, that's what we've got. So, but I encourage you to ask me questions, because that's why I'm here.
Any questions?
I have a little list. Thanks for coming. This is a little historical that maybe you do or don't know, but why did the state deem that the mosquito fleets were not in the best interest? Because was it totally private, or was it a private public?
No, it was all private.
Okay.
And what happened was that there was a guy named Captain Peabody who had a Black Ball Ferry line, which was a mosquito fleet and line. He had some operations, and he went in and he started cherry picking and buying a whole bunch of private operators and consolidating them into a service. During the Second World War, the states he operated what is now called the Washington State Ferry System as a private operator. The state said during the Second World War, hey, can you reduce your fares so that people can get around during the war effort because everything's constrained? And he said, absolutely, I'll do that. So for 5 years, he did. And then in 1945 or 46, he said, now I have to recoup my losses. So I'm going to raise my rates. And the commuter market was incensed that he doubled and tripled their rates. And so the state said, you can't do that. You have to stop. And he said, no, I don't have to. I'm a private operator. So he tied up his boats.
Got it.
And the state deal realized, hey, we can't have this. So they bought him out.
Got it.
1950.
Thank you for the context. one of the things, are they all foils? Or are some of them foils and some of them not foils? Is everything that we're talking about a foil?
No.
Okay.
So right now we have passenger-only ferries calling in Puget Sound. King County operates some, Kitsap Transit operates them. And they're what we call foil assisted boats. So they're aluminum catamarans that run, they're pushed with, internal combustion engines. They're not foiling. So the foiling ferries are attractive because they're much lighter. So it doesn't take as much to push them through the water and they can be electrified. It's hard to make a traditionally powered boat go fast with an electric motor. So that's why they lift them up.
And that was one of the things, our Thurston Regional Planning Organization did a study previously, and they said that the wakes created too much erosion on shore previously. So it sounds like with the foil, you would eliminate your wake, correct?
The foil absolutely eliminates the weight and absolutely eliminates the sound, which is
Another challenge.
another challenge. So they have to add sound so that marine mammals don't.
Oh, really?
And they do that in a variety of different ways, depending on the application, because different marine mammals react differently to different sound. But with regard to the wake, so that when Washington State Ferries started to do their passenger-only ferries, they went through Rich Passage, which between Bainbridge Island and the Kitsap Peninsula, and they were seeing that there was some damage to the bulkheads. So they stopped that, and All American Marine, one of our local boat builders, designed a low wake vessel to minimize that wake, so minimize the damage to the bulkheads and also minimize, marine mammal issues as well. So the boats that are extant now, the traditionally powered ones, are low wake.
Got it. So either one would maybe not have that same issue that was previous.
Yeah, that's been mitigated.
It's been mitigated. So why, I'm trying to understand the nexus between the public and private sector. So why would the private sector not complete the demand study? Why? Because if there's a demand for it in the private side, and how does that then work with the subsidization to some extent of this emerging technology? Where's the nexus between the role of the public and the private sector?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that question, why the private sector would not engage in the demand study. So the demand study, and I'm going to use the term demand study, even though it would be demand feasibility operations altogether, costs about $60,000 per application. And the demand study is designed to study Olympia to the airport, only that. And I would think, to answer your question, why would the private sector not do it, is that I guess there are too many opportunities for the private sector to go out and contract with a public agency already, that those private sector operators don't need to do a demand study.
Like other options. So we are trying to recruit them to Olympia.
Yes, exactly. And that's what happened in Des Moines. When I worked with Des Moines, we did the demand study, then we did the pilot project, and then King County Metro Marine Division said, hey, I think we can do this. And so that's what they're pursuing now.
So that's why it's different than at the airport, where the airline is doing their own study, and then if the demand is there, then it's different than that, because we're trying to create an incentive for them to come here.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. And then if the pilot project, is that specifically with Artemis, or is that with those multiple companies that you talked about on the manufacturing side?
Once we get the demand study and we can see, the demand study will tell us not only whether we can, make it viable economically, but also what types of vessels we need to use, how fast they need to go, and what their charging capacity is. It may be that an electric boat is not the way to go. It may be that a conventionally powered vessel. So once we have that demand study, then we put it out to the marketplace, and those operators and manufacturers that can do what we need to do will self-qualify themselves. I suspect that the three big ones that we will attract are Artemis, Candela, and EV Maritime. Those are the three competitors in that electric ferry market. But it may be that an aluminum traditionally powered vessel might be the answer.
And then the only thing that you're proposing studying is Olympia to Des Moines. We would not be looking at Olympia to downtown Seattle, Olympia to Tacoma, Olympia to anywhere else.
I anecdotally, I don't know this, but this demand study would tell us that.
So it would be broader.
It could be broader. We haven't done it yet, so we could say, let's study this. But my thought is that really the demand is to get to the airport. King County will be in their strategic plan. They'll be providing service from Des Moines, the airport, to downtown. Tacoma will probably also be providing service from Tacoma to the airport, but Tacoma's they're not nearly as far along as Olympia is. So my suspicion is that we're going to find that if we get to Des Moines, you can get to Seattle, get off that boat, get onto the when it goes to Seattle. Or if you wanted to go to Tacoma, I guess the way it is now, I would envision having to go from Olympia to perhaps Des Moines back to Tacoma, although there may be a circle route.
And then as part of the demand study, are you studying the intersection between I arrive at the shore and then I need transportation to the light rail? I need transportation because that all doesn't connect currently.
Right.
So is that part of the demand study or is that a follow-up to the demand
No,
study?
that could be incorporated into the demand study. It's called the last mile. So it would be, once you get to the dock in Des Moines, what do? How do you get to the airport? How do you get to the light rail to go to Seattle? How do you get to a bus to go to Seattle? How do you get a ferry to go to Seattle? And that would be
Part of
the demand study would say, we need this. Now, King County Metro, which operates the ferry service as well, has already told us, if you get a boat to the Des Moines Marina, we'll get a connector that will run from the marina the 1.5 miles to the airport and make them work. I mean, an ideal situation is that if you get say a 30-passenger high-speed boat, a bus driver or a coach driver gets on the boat here in Olympia, takes the boat with his 30 passengers to the coach at the other end, drives up to the airport, picks up the 30 passengers, so they're coming back, drives back, gets on the boat, comes down here, and
Mhm.
so that the bus driver sitting next to you. So
Last question, sorry guys. Do you have anything that you want to say about the impact on marine mammals or just the environmental?
well, it's definitely a known issue, and the Europeans are very, very cognizant of marine mammal protections. And as I said, so the aluminum boats, they have something, I don't think it's exactly sonar, but they do, because we have the orcas. We don't even have just the resident orcas. We have whales and we have, big orcas and others. And they have figured that out so that they're, we've never hit a whale with a commercially piloted US vessel. So they've figured that out. The challenge with the electric foiling ferries is they make no wake and no noise. So the marine mammals don't even know
Mhm.
they're coming up on them. So they have technologies that they use to push out whatever is needed. I don't know if it's a vibration or noise, but I could get those studies to you.
I think moving forward, the community will be interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the big agenda items when operators introduce ferry service.
Well, it's very cool. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Not my question.
Couple of questions. It may actually be more for staff than you, Peter, but I'm kind of curious if we've started to consider what sites on the peninsula might be considered for manufacturing or even a terminal. And is this going to be part of our Peninsula Master Plan update?
I'll take that one.
Sure.
So,
Thanks, Peter.
yeah,
Peter?
don't go far. They may stop. Great question. We actually historically, if you look at the comprehensive, they called it a comprehensive plan in 1995. Before we called it a comprehensive scheme of harbor improvements. It actually had an area inside the marine terminal that they called the Admiralty District. And that was an area just sort of south of where Hearthfire is. And that was intended to be a boat location. And over time, I think largely just because there wasn't need or market or interest, updates to the comprehensive scheme of harbor improvements got rid of the Admiralty District. I absolutely think that as a part of the Peninsula Master Planning process, and as Peter mentioned, hey, there could be a potential new market for boat building as boat yards throughout PA Puget Sound are sort of filling up with a customer base, I think it is absolutely worth exploring. There are a couple of other locations, maybe not for manufacturing. We do think that you saw the peninsula or the plaza being used here as a location for pickup when we did the pilot. You could potentially look at that, or you could look at even being on the marina side for that location. The other thing that we don't know is we do have rail here. Could these be manufactured in sort of bulk pieces somewhere nearby and then assembled on the peninsula in a smaller footprint? So there's a number of different options, but absolutely the Peninsula Master Planning exercise is where we would look at something like that.
Great. Great. And then the last thing I had was we've talked pretty extensively about private partnerships. Are there opportunities for other partnerships, say with WashDOT or tribal partners or?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've already had a conversation just to introduce the concept to Intercity Transit. They are the transit authority, talking about moving for Thurston County, talking about moving people around, just at least engage them. Conversation has not gone deep, but it's just hey, this is on our radar and something that we're doing. So we wanted to make sure that they were not surprised by the activity. I do think that there could be opportunities for partnerships in something like this. There are even opportunities for grants that we could explore to do some of the feasibility and due diligence work that Peter outlined that we can explore to help reduce some of that initial outlay costs. So yes.
Great, thank you.
Okay. And we'll move on to our second item on the agenda for pending issues or business, and that's the Bud Inlet cleanup presented by Alex Smith.
Yeah, so thank you, Commissioner. And this is a follow-up that came out of the Commission retreat where Commissioner Isle reminded us that the pending issues portion of the agenda was really meant for sort of items that are ongoing that the board is doing, and this is just an opportunity for updates. So I put on there 5 different topics, and I also put together a cover memo that gives the updates, but in brief on Bud Inlet cleanup. So last time we met with the commission and talked about Bud Inlet cleanup, the sampling had been done in East Bay and Ecology was reviewing all of the data. And then we were also preparing a source control plan that'll identify potential upland sources of contamination and ways that those could be controlled. In addition, we reported that we were ahead of schedule in conducting our sampling in West Bay under a sampling plan that was approved by Ecology. So as of today, all of the samples in West Bay have been taken and they've been analyzed. The initial data that we've gotten back shows that there is sort of diffuse widespread contamination in West Bay, but no hot spots that were identified. Ecology has now reviewed the report on the results of the sampling in East Bay. They provided comments on that. We're reviewing those comments. And all of that will determine where we need to dredge in East Bay and where we can let the sediments recover through natural processes. So more to come on that. We're also working with the Department of Commerce to access the $3 million that the legislature gave us during the last legislative session. So that's Bud Inlet.
And we're on to the update on the Marine Terminal Warehouse.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Sanders. So since the commission authorized staff to move forward towards the purchase of a ClearSpan warehouse for the Marine Terminal, staff has been working both with ClearSpan and the City of Olympia on the logistics of permitting and installing the structure. As we worked with the City of Olympia on the details of the design and their permitting requirements, we ran into some unanticipated regulatory requirements, and that caused some delays. But we are now finishing up our technical specifications, and we anticipate submitting our permit package for the warehouse by the end of this month. Given that we've been working really closely with the city, we don't anticipate too many challenges in getting those permits approved. And so at this point, it really, when the permits will be issued depends largely on the workload of city staff. But once we get those permits, we should be able to break ground and forge ahead. We do anticipate a cost increase associated with the additional regulatory requirements. We don't know the exact amount yet, and we won't until it's gone out to bid. But we will bring it, we'll keep the commissioner apprised as this runs through the city's permitting process, and we'll either come back for a budget amendment to cover the additional costs, or we'll build that into the 2026 budget.
Thank you. Okay, so any questions or comment? No? Okay, we're moving on to the update on Dancing Goats building renovations.
Hey, so our on-call architect, Thomas Architecture Studios, has worked with Port staff to develop a conceptual design to turn Dancing Goats building into office and commission meeting room space. We shared those conceptual designs with you as part of one of the weekly reports. And then on September 22nd at our commission meeting, Ron Thomas will come and walk through the conceptual designs with the commission. So you all will have a chance to give input on the design, and in particular, the commission meeting space. We want to make sure you all have a chance to weigh in on that. And as with the Marine Terminal Warehouse, we anticipate the renovation costs will increase above the $7 million estimate that we provided and was included in the 2025 capital budget. And we will again be updating you as we learn more about what that cost increase will be.
Thank you, Alex. And then we'll have the airport master plan update by Alex again.
Okay, and I know folks have been asking about that. So as you are well aware, commissioners, when we did a SEPA determination of non-significance for the airport master plan update, that was appealed by a group of folks in the community. And per the port's SEPA policy, if an appeal is filed of a SEPA determination for something that we're doing, the underlying project cannot move forward until the SEPA appeal is resolved. So there was a SEPA appeal in front of a hearing examiner. It was multi-days of testimony. And then the appeal process ended August 20th with both parties submitting to the hearing examiner closing arguments in writing. So it's now in front of the hearing examiner, and we are simply awaiting his decision on the appeal. And we'll definitely notify you as soon as we have that. Thank you.
Can I ask a question on that one? Have we identified any risks associated or costs associated with the delay of the approving of the master plan update for the airport?
I don't know that we have identified any. I don't know if there was, our director of operations, Warren Hendrickson, might be better able to respond to that.
Warren Hendrickson, Director of Operations. No, sir, there's no real impact in the delay to this. It's all for future projects, and the existing master plan until the new one is adopted. The 2013 master plan basically provides it, and mostly the habitat conservation plan is the biggest limiting factor on anything going forward. Certainly not the SEPA appeal.
Okay, great, thank you.
See no further questions. We'll move on to the update on the Peninsula Master Plan.
Okay, and so we, as the commission's aware, contracted with TRPC, the Thurston Regional Planning Council, to pick up the Peninsula Master Plan where our other consultants left off. And TRPC will be coming to the September 15th work session next Monday to discuss the master plan with all of you and their scoping of it and their initial plan of work for it, but also discussing with you your priorities to make sure that they understand what the commission would like to see coming out of this project. So that is next Monday. And then just as an aside on these pending issues, if there are any pending issues the commission would like to add to this list to make sure that we update you on regularly, just let me know.
I was just gonna say that it might be worthwhile to add the foreign trade zone.
Okay, yeah.
On that, just.
And previously, sometimes it was no update, so it's not like you have to say
Right.
something every time.
Yeah.
It more so just keeps it in everyone's mind for when you do have something to say.
Absolutely. That was what I was anticipating. There's nothing new that
That's great. And I think the community will appreciate that too.
I realized. Silences about several.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of good work being done, but
Okay, there are no action items on the action calendar and no action other items. So next on the agenda is the advisory calendar. First is the Colibri Northwest contract amendment presented by Alex Smith.
All right, thank you, commissioners. And this is quite relevant to one member of our audience. So as Peter mentioned before, we have a contract with Colibri Northwest, and we want to discuss with you some issues associated with it. So today, this is just advisory. We don't need a decision from you today. So about Colibri in general, they provide expertise on transportation, public infrastructure, and policy development in this port. And as you're well aware, we retain Colibri Northwest to assist with attracting electric ferry manufacturing to the Port Peninsula and to explore fast electric ferry service to Olympia. So the contract was, its basic framework is it was an initial 6-month term, a monthly fee of $3,000, and that initial not to exceed amount was $18,000. We did 2 amendments. One was to extend the term through December 31st of this year, and that was in response to sort of the ongoing work that Peter was doing for us. And then we increased the not to exceed amount to $25,000, which was the maximum amount that could be done without commission approval. But the August invoice of $3,000 exceeded the total not to exceed amount by about $2,000. So we will need commission approval to increase the not to exceed amount of the contract beyond $25,000. So we will come back to the commission with a request to increase the not to exceed amount, and I should not have included a specific amount. I think we want to come back to the commission with a proposal that makes sense for the remainder of the work that the port would like Colibri Northwest to do. So we'll come back that on September 22nd. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Will that be on the consent agenda?
It could be. I think it kind of, yeah.
I would recommend putting it on the consent agenda. I feel like that's within your discretion.
Okay, sounds good.
And I think just updates as far as what exactly is being delivered from that contract, I think would be useful to the commission. But I think you're managing that, so.
Okay, I would agree. I think it's well worth it and can be a consent item going forward. It's not just getting 12 or even 150 cars off the road. It's about starting a domino effect with getting these boats into Puget Sound. If we can be the manufacturer and shipyard, that's a huge opportunity for Olympia.
Maybe just one comment that, you know, if we come back with a new contract or an extension or whatever, and not just this contract, but others like it, but maybe we put some language in there that triggers a review at like 80% the payout so that we don't have any disruptions in service at the end of the contract, just to keep things going.
So, yeah, do that.
Very good. Next on the advisory calendar is Swantown Boatworks Stormwater Retrofit Contract Award presented by, I'm looking here, sorry, James Summer, Public Works Program Manager.
Good evening, Commission.
Oh, sir.
So, James Summer, Public Works Program Manager here for the Port of Olympia, and I am here tonight to present on the Swantown Boatworks Stormwater Retrofit Contract Award. So today's presentation is advisory only, no action is requested. I'm going to talk about the project purpose and scope, followed by the funding, then the project status, and the next steps. So the location of this project is at Swantown Boatworks, address 650 Marine Drive Northeast. A little map there, in case you were unfamiliar where that is. The purpose of this project really is to improve our stormwater system out at the Boatworks project, or at the Boatworks facility. So as operating permits become increasingly stringent, and we want to make sure we stay ahead of those requirements and maintain our compliance. So to do that, we are going to do 2 things. We're going to alter the pipes underground that will divert stormwater away from the existing wet pond. And then we are going to install an equip unit from Nuterra. It is a passive filter system. So essentially we'll just take a pump the stormwater system or the stormwater onto that system. It'll filter out and help us with our increased metals treatment. So funding for this project, it was in the 2024 capital budget as well as the 2025 capital budget. We have a remaining balance of $541,394 in port funding. And then we also got a Department of Ecology Stormwater Financial Assistance Program grant with a not to exceed amount of $568,609. And just for reference, our engineer's estimate for this project came in just north of $838,000. So between the port funding and the grant funding, we feel reasonably confident that this will come in right within budget. So we put our bid package out on August 29th, and the bid will close on September 25th. As of September 3rd, when I put this presentation together, 51 different entities had downloaded the bid documents. That doesn't mean we will get 51 bids. That could be contractors, newspapers, engineers, but it has been downloaded 51 times. As far as anticipated start date, as soon as the contract is awarded, materials would get ordered. So that would be the equipped unit. And then we would be looking for the winning contractor to provide us a schedule, but we are looking to finish this work this year. And so next steps will be before the commission on September 22nd. So we are providing the below as part of the consent calendar, and that's what we'll be asking. I will call out that this, I guess the cover letter for the consent agenda is a little different than normal, mainly because the bids don't come back until September 25th, and we are asking you to authorize it on September 22nd. So why are we asking that? Because we're trying to get this done before the stormy season, we need to get this equip unit ordered. And so if we wait until the October 14th meeting to award it, it takes around 10 days to get a contract in place. It could potentially push this project into next year, and we'll have to skip it during the rainy season. And so in the cover memo, what we are asking, I won't read the thing verbatim, but we're going to ask you to authorize the executive director to award it to the lowest responsible bidder, with the caveat that the port's portion of that project does not exceed the $541,394 that is currently allocated for the project. And with that, I would ask for any questions or comments.
Thanks, James. Thanks, James.
So I just one question, that last comment about the ports. So if you're going to ask us to approve or to authorize the executive director to approve this contract, as long as the ports portion isn't over 541,000. So then that means that the project could be well over the engineer's estimate and still be approved.
It could potentially, yeah. So let me back up to the funding slide here. So in total, between about 1.1 million is what we have in funding. The engineer's estimate, again, it's just an estimate, but it takes into account the cost of the unit and then tries to anticipate the contractor's bid for that. But yes, potentially it could come in above the engineer's estimate and still have it so port funds don't exceed the 541.
Is there a contingency in that engineer's estimate? I guess
there is. I can't recall off the top of my head. I can get that to you. And we can also have a reporting mechanism once we get that bid total back to report it back to the commission.
But the 568 is fixed, and then anything above that, yeah. Okay.
That is correct.
Where that wasn't like a match.
no. Okay. Is there going to be any disruption in operations over there at Boatworks?
There should be a small disruption. It's going to go in the southeast corner of the boatyard. So it's kind of tucked away outside of operations. There will be some work done as we dig up and replace the lines underneath, but it will be pretty confined to that small area. So most operations will continue.
It's a pretty large project for that small an area. So I guess I was kind of also wondering, is this project going to take into consideration any future developments that, we have to, I'd hate for in 5 years, we have to turn around and do something like this again. Is that-
Glad you asked that. Yes. So the boatyard expansion was looked at when we sized this unit. We were already on the cusp between two sizes. And so we opted to go up one size to give us that future capacity so that if we do move forward with the boatyard expansion, it's already built in capacity wise.
Great. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is commissioner reports and discussion. Do you have any commissioner reports?
Yeah, the one thing I did since our last meeting would be the Lacey Chamber of Commerce Forum. So they had a forum on veteran affairs and they had the garrison commander speak. It was very interesting, not quite port related, but it was an interesting forum. I think I'd like to get more involved with their government affairs committee. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. If anyone knows the Lacey Chamber of Commerce, you're gonna help me try to figure that out too, who the right person is. Or yeah, if any of you know. And then I think it got me kind of thinking about what you were saying a couple weeks ago, Commissioner Harding, about reporting back on our committee assignments. And I think it would be good to have more structure next year of exactly what committee we're supposed to be attending. Is it Lacey Chamber of Commerce would be a good example. I think, is it the government affairs meeting or is it the forum that we think is most valuable, and what information are we looking for to bring back to the commission to really help partner with these organizations, but then also make sure that everyone here at the board is aware of what we're doing.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, that's all I had for my commissioner report.
Thank you. Commissioner Montano. Commissioner Isle.
Yeah, just a quick report, I guess. I was assigned to the POCAC subcommittee of the Economic Development Subcommittee, and I think we've had one meeting since then, and I was unfortunately out of town, but I do look forward to working with that committee. Since our last meeting, I did attend the Thurston Chamber forum regarding the FIFA World Cup fan zone. I also attended the Panorama Community Partners event, Solid Waste Advisory Committee, Experience Olympia and Beyond's annual meeting. That was fun, and fellow commissioner getting an award. That was outstanding. Congratulations. And then Fufara, I went to the island and spent the day with the chamber and the yacht club and the military folks out there, and that was worthwhile. If you get an opportunity to attend that, I think it's well worthwhile. It's a lot of fun, and I think it's highly appreciated by our military families. So that's it for me.
I was with Commissioner Isle at FUFRA as well, and I think it was just a great reminder to think about the people who generationally have served in our military, and just focusing on that for the day. And also made some connections with some of the people that were on my boat that maybe will help the port. So I think sometimes the best connections come from social interactions, because you build rapport and you actually get a response to your email. So that's exciting. On Commissioner Montano's point, one of the things we're talking about is, from Experience Olympia and Beyond particularly, is having some talking points to send back to the different commissions and councils so that there is something structured that could be included in the packet. TRPC does a good job of that. I don't know if all of the other organizations that would be possible, but just some report back from all the committee work that could go in the packet. So we don't need to belabor it, but so that people can be tracking what's happening. On that note, there's been some media press around Experience Olympia and Beyond, and I just want to say that there is so much good work going on in that organization, and I'm really proud of the staff and everything that they've done, as well as the board and how they've come together. And it's been transition times, but the work that they're doing to support tourism, the scope of Experience Olympia and Beyond is somewhat complex, the way it's funded and what they do. And so I think sometimes there's not an understanding there, but I just wanted to say that on the record, that great work. And as we continue to invest in our tourism efforts, I think there's a lot of big opportunities there for Thurston County's tourism to grow. We're in the works for planning of the EDC's real estate forum, which is going to be on September 25th. I am working with a panel of local folks to talk about getting to yes on how to build a house under $500,000. And it's been really fun. It's one of those where we didn't want to rehash the same conversation. We wanted to have it in a different way where everyone left with a takeaway. And hopefully that's what we'll all leave with a to-do list and we'll get there together. So mark your calendar. And then I also just wanted to highlight another Lacey organization, St. Martin's. The Abbot, I don't know how many people have interacted with the monastic community there in Lacey, but we have a monastery there. And the Abbot has been traveling to the Ukraine to work with a Benedictine nunnery who's taking in the widows and the orphans from the war. And I just think there's so much that's going on with people in our community that we don't even know about. So I just wanted to highlight that as something that's someone in our community and an organization in our community is participating in. So, and my quote of the day is from James Baldwin. And it is, the most dangerous creation of any society is the man who has nothing to lose. Yeah.
I just have a few items to share. I attended the Grand Mountain Rochester Chamber where we were presented fire safety summer firewise prevention plan by Chief Nathan Drake, which was really awesome, of the West Thurston Fire Authority. So he came and spoke to the chamber about fire safety. So that was really interesting to hear from him. And then I attended the Experience Olympia and Beyond award ceremony where my co-commissioner, Ms. Harding, Commissioner Harding, received an award. I also attended the Foo For which was awesome. I enjoyed it last year, and last year I was with Commissioner Harding on the terminal waving, and then she was in the boat this year. So I was screaming and waving at her from the sidelines there. So that was pretty fun. And then I attended the Sea Level Rise Collaborative where we updated our bylaws, were briefed on our 5-year plan, did some updating on that. And so we're good to go on the Sea Level Rise Collaborative. And so that's all I have to share on my commissioner reports. And so now we'll move on. If there's anything else, we'll move on to other business.
I have a motion I would like to put forward. I move to authorize the executive director to engage the services of a professional coach or consultant of her choosing to support her in her leadership development. Meetings would be a minimum of twice per month with no maximum budget at the discretion of executive director.
Thank you, Commissioner Harding.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion to move to authorize the executive director to engage the services of a professional coach or consultant of her choosing to support her in her leadership development. Meetings will be a minimum of twice per month with no maximum budget at the discretion of executive director. And we have a second. All those in favor?
Wait, could we have discussion?
Yes, let's have discussion, please. Thank you.
No, yeah, no problem. I just think that working for a 5-member commission is, you have a lot of bosses and a lot of coaches and a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And we may or may not have an executive session to discuss the performance of an employee at the discretion of our chair and our vice chair. And so I let our executive director know I was going to make this motion because I think that having ongoing support when you're in a leadership role is the least that we can do to support Alex in her role. The previous executive director had a person on staff. I think it's common for people to have professional coaching. So it's my intention to create support for our executive director. And so that's why I brought that forward.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's not always easy for someone in that position, executive director or CEO, that when you're at the top of the organizational chart like that, it's you don't always have that support. You don't always have that somewhere you can go. So I mean, my own self, my personal self, I've engaged in like support groups for certain levels. So I would hope that Alex would be able to utilize this in, you know, whatever would be most helpful to her. So sure, I'm in favor.
Is the language expansive enough? Cause it could be a group, it could be, is it expansive enough or do we need to, yeah? Okay. The intent was that you would have discretion, that we weren't dictating what you did. Right. But that you had to do it a couple times a month.
That's what I got.
Because sometimes you gotta give you, a little, we all need encouragement for our self-care.
Well, truly, as a previous HR professional, I feel like professional development and having the tools and access to valuable, resources is really, I was just having a discussion about human capital being your most precious asset. And so I support this like 100%. So moving forward.
Good idea. Really thoughtful idea for Alex, and I think just the benefits this will flow down to the rest of the staff.
Are you okay with it?
I
Okay.
I do wanna, look at the fiscal implications of it, but yes.
And I think that it's a small cost for investing in you as our leader, which will pay dividends to the organization and the community. So I think that the return on investment will definitely be there. And you can always pivot if you don't like what you picked. So
And it says at your discretion. So moving forward, all those in favor say aye.
I
Motion carries. It's approved. Thank you. Let's see. Seeing no other pending business, we'll move on to meeting announcements. Alex Smith.
All right, upcoming meetings on Monday, September 15th, as was mentioned, at 4 p.m. We'll have a work session. We'll be discussing a conversation with TRPC. Also, our state lobbyist, Kelsey Hulse, would like to come and talk about the upcoming legislative session. Then on Tuesday, September 16th, there is a Citizens Advisory Committee meeting in this room. On Monday, September 22nd, we have our next regular commission meeting in this room at 5:30. Just a heads up, commissioners, I will be out of town, out of the country, actually. So Mike Reed, the mellifluous tones of Mike Reed will be in this chair. And then on Tuesday, October 14th is another commission meeting again, because that Monday, the 3rd is a holiday. That is it.
Great, thank you, Alex. Seeing if there's no further business, I would like to now adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for your participation.